Are you looking for the perfect rehydration drink to support your active lifestyle? Well, my friends, look no further than Hoist. Hoist is there for you whether you're going to use it pre-workout, in the middle of your workout in between sets, after workout, maybe if you're traveling, if you feel that dehydration headache sneaking up on you, or maybe if you just had a late night the night before and you need to reset and get back after it. With 3 times the electrolytes of traditional sports drinks with half the sugar and no high fructose corn syrup, no artificial preservatives, sweeteners, or dyes, Hoist is BPA free, it's kosher, and most importantly, it's made in the USA, baby. We all use Hoist, and I can't speak highly of it enough. Whether I'm doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm out doing tactical operations, or I'm in the gym trying to make sure that I'm harder to kill, Hoist is always there to support me. With 5 delicious flavors you can pick up at your local grocery store or gas station. I love the dragon fruit, but you can try the orange, watermelon, peach mango, or strawberry lemonade. Hoist knows that you don't do normal things, and you might be out in the wilderness on a hunt, or you might be on a long ruck. Well, they hear you, and they've also got 3 delicious powder packs that you can mix in water anytime you want it. Peach mango, grape, and that fruit punch is that hitter for those packets. So go check them out. If you need IV level hydration for your normal every day-to-day activity, or if you're trying to get after it, working 2 workouts a day, Hoist is there to support you. Go check them out.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Ones Ready podcast. A few technical issues this morning, but we worked through it with the help of Chief Master Sergeant Rob Gutierrez over here, helping us out through things. It's just me and Peaches here today. And we want to bring Rob back on to talk about really whatever Rob wants to talk about, which is standards. That's all he talks about. I'm telling you, you go out with this guy socially and he's like, what's up with the standards, bro? So Rob, welcome back. And how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, brother. How you guys doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
LIVIN. That's what I'm doing. Man, that's all I can do. You guys will, for everybody that's listening, you'll notice there's going to be some weird jumping, and maybe we see Trent, maybe we hear Trent, maybe we don't. I don't know. So there'll probably be some stepping on. So it is definitely not on purpose interrupting people like Aaron has a habit of doing. I mean, you know, he just all he cares about is making jokes and interrupting people. Like, it's crazy, but whatever.
He's the worst.
He's the worst. And if you don't like him, you should unsubscribe. I can't wait. No kidding. I can't wait till Aaron listens to this, because he does. He goes through and he picks clips out and stuff like that. But anyway, we digress. As we're talking about exceeding the standards, right? And the standards, Rob, you deal with a lot of, like, you're looking at a lot of applications and stuff like that, because you are the functional manager, not the career field functional manager, but you're the major command functional manager, and for Air Education Training Command. And so you see a lot of cross-training packages. And we were just kind of, the reason why I want to jump into the cross-training packages, because we were just talking about this as we were working through our technical difficulties. So I'm not going to really tee it up for like with a specific question, but when it comes to standards and exceeding the standards for from cross trainees, what kind of things are you seeing, and what is really jumping out at you?
So one of the things that I've recently watched and seen a trend is you know, I get these packages and I look at them and I'm like, okay, like I'm seeing some pretty good solid things, right? Like I'm looking at EPRs, I'm looking at recommendation letters, and because believe me, I'll call every single one of them and ask, especially for the individuals that are coming from sister services that want to become a combat controller or whatever the case in Air Force Special Warfare. And I'm starting to see a trend of I would say in some instances a little bit impatience, right? But I look at them and I see, for instance, like an IFT sheet. And I'll notice that I'm like, why is this candidate? Why would he send me a package as a cross training? So you're already probably an NCO of some sort and been in the Air Force for at least 2.5 years, right? Or understand, you know, based on the podcast information here on what it is, what's going to be asked of you physically. And I see a lot of them where I see, you know, 1 over on the minimum for pull-ups, maybe 2 push-ups, maybe 2 sit-ups, a runtime that's, I mean, barely eking by a couple seconds. a swim time that's decent, but at the same time too, if you're doing all your calisthenics first with a run and then you go in the swim, man, you're already going to be in the hurt locker. And it only takes one bad day to drop it. So I start seeing a trend like this and I'm like, man, I'm about to drop a bunch of money, you know, and now granted, it's not my money, but it's taxpayer money, and which is important. And to fund this candidate to come out and essentially really, you know, come unprepared. And it bothers me sometimes because, you know, the old method, right, that we used to talk about before, you know, of the older selection courses and things like that, that, yeah, we used to thrash people, and it was essentially, you know, the strong will survive, and that was it. And granted, we did most of those individuals, the norm, as some of the words, the norm was to exceed the standard, right? But I don't really like using the word norm because I think it's bypassing the actual action, and it could be used vaguely to divert or whatever the case. I say exceeding the standard is the standard because, you know, especially over the past 20 years, you know, every single operator we've had out there has always exceeded the standard. Because why? Because there were sister services out there. They're with the Navy, with the Army, with the Marine Corps. Some individuals that were coalition forces, you know what I mean, with different types. And when you look at it, they exceeded the standard since the beginning. That was known as the way forward. Because if you have a mental capacity or a mental piece where you are exceeding the standard, that bare minimum is not where you want to be. You want the competitive, you have the competitive nature, and you have the aggression in you and the personal mental toughness to exceed the standard, knowing that standard is here, but getting to here is where you want to be and where you're trying to achieve. Because if you're constantly getting to here, just making the bare minimum, I mean, in that case, you can look at it from a personal perspective and say, you know, yeah, I'll be really comfortable with having just a car, right? Well, yeah, everyone likes a car, but do you want a Honda Civic or do you want, you know, a Ferrari? You know what I mean?
Obviously a Civic.
Well, right now, based on fuel prices, yes. Right now, you definitely want a Civic. You know what I mean? But do you want to be and if we're building a car, you know what I mean? Do you want to build the Civic or do you want to build the Ferrari? Man, I want to build a Ferrari because that thing is made for performance. It's, you know, it's going to win. So, and it's crazy because I see some of these packages too, and like some of them I'll even get phone calls like, well, Chief, I mean, I met the minimum. You kind of have to let me in. Wrong. No, I don't. I ain't got to do nothing. You know what I mean? I'm going to have plenty of packages and other individuals that are competitive that want to be in these positions, that want these slots, and I'm going to give it to them because they're exceeding the standard. And it's not that I'm doing anything legal. It's not legal. It's just the way I rack and stack it. And it drives me crazy sometimes to see like some of these packages and like, what the crap, dude? Like, and I'm not that old, and neither are you, Peach. And Trent kind of might be old, but his hair is perfection. So it actually doesn't, it stays frozen in time to be perfect. So, but none of us ever before, or even the competitive nature I see was always there. It was always like, yeah, you know, I may have beat somebody in the run, but I'm worried about how he's going to thrash me in the pool and how he's going to beat me in the time there. And I'm going to push myself. Right. Or, you know, the competitive nature that what we had about, you know, knocking out whatever, whether it was shooting, whether it was moving, stress tests, you know, you name it, you know, crap. I remember even, and sometimes, with our job and our profession, understanding certain things. I remember some of the tips guys like SI would say, and he'd be like, if you can't program your radio, you know, at the time with a big old Foxtrot 117, if you can't program that thing with your hand behind you at night, on the dial pad, because this is before we had KDUs, where KDUs were cool. You can't go back there and sit there and program your reset or whatever you got to do into a different tab or whatever the case, man, you're wrong, right? If you can't do it in your pack and pull it forward and do it without even looking at night and closing the closet door or whatever the case and doing it, then you were wrong. And competing to be able to do it with guys like ML and other individuals, to be like, who could do it first, you know what I mean? And who could do it right with the quality, not just, do a radio check right after, then you tank it because you just rushed it. Like, you got it down to perfection every time. So I just see like that competitive nature sometimes dropping, or some individuals that want just the bare minimum just to get a seat in the door. And I'll get you a seat in the door, but remember, we're putting our names, like every MFM that comes through, that is an AETC, at least that control packages, like I'm putting my name on this individual to say, all right, I'm going to give this individual a shot. That's my signature. That's my piece. That's my concurrence. So basically, I just essentially said, hey, this guy's good. Now my name's on the table, that if that individual makes it, and goes through, it's going to go two ways. Either they're really good or they're really bad. And now my name's on that, and that sucks, right? I got to make sure there's a good quality in there coming in. And I'm not seeing some of that as much anymore. And like, this message is going to get out to, whether it's a cross trainee or a non-prior service, or a such a service person that's interested in coming across into aspect war. Like, man, I really only want to select the top individuals, because especially for combat control, like if I only have a limited amount of seats that I'm gonna give to combat control for the next course or whatever the case, I'm gonna give the top candidates that perform the hardest and the best. They're the only ones that are gonna get the spot, and everyone else, you're gonna sit there and wait. You're gonna wait, and then they're gonna send messages like, hey, I want a status update, and I'm like, should have read the message traffic, try again in 60 days and give me a better IFT score, right? Or wait, and you'll wait forever. And at some point, if you're not updating it, whatever, like you're supposed to, I just can't, I'll close the case out, because somebody else is going to apply and someone else is going to want it, and I'll just give it to them. So this is one of those things, man, that's like literally recently been seen. I don't know if Trent, if you're seeing that from your capacity on your side, but I know I have.
Yeah. And I think what you said was perfect about it's the mentality. It's not about as much about the physical, the numbers on the IFT. Because even when we had the 3 different standards for the 3 different pipelines coming in back in the day, all the people that were successful in those pipelines, it didn't really matter what the standards were, but the people that were exceeding those standards by a certain margin, competitive mentality, were the ones that were successful. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me right now, but that was what led to success. It was the mentality of not settling for the minimums, like we were talking about on the IFT podcast that we did. It chaps me a little bit when we talk about minimums so much, and that's the standard, but that's not the mentality we're looking for. So if you're calling us the MFMs and you're trying to beat down the door to get in the pipeline, like, where was that effort and that competitive nature when you were doing your PT test, when you're getting ready? Like, why are you blowing up my emails when I look in there and you're just barely squeaking by? Like, put a little bit more time in, and then I'll work with you to get you in the front door. But understand that when I see your paperwork and I have to assume a mentality and I give you a phone call, and if you're not, it's a weird thing, because you have to have that combination of humility, of competitive nature, and the willingness to go above and beyond. Those are the things that we're looking for to get you in the front door. So we'll just increase the IFT standards. I mean, I think there's a conversation to be had about some of those types of things, like about the physical standards, but it's that mentality to go above and beyond, and to live beyond the minimums. That's what we're looking for. People that live their lives above what the minimum standard is.
Yeah, no doubt. It also comes down to, when I think about it, because I've been thinking about it real in depth on certain things. Sometimes there's an assumption, I would say, there's an assumption by other individuals, I guess you would say, or candidates, or heck, I don't even know. Maybe it's recruiting. I don't know. I don't ask them that many questions like that. But there's an assumption that because we have a pretty solid, SWIT course now that prepares individuals, that, hey, if you just meet this bare minimum, don't worry, because we're going to do the work for you. We're going to program all these things. And as long as they meet that bare minimum, we can just get them there, which technically we probably could, right? But the reality is we're going to take losses. Let's just say we sent 10 that barely met. Man, the way the attrition is during A&S and stuff like that, first of all, I mean, we're probably going to trip maybe 6 to 7 out of that 10 in the first place. That aren't even just going to be completely, succeed through A&S. So that 3 or 4 that are left, you know what I mean, we have to work with, right? When in fact, we'd rather you come way more prepared, because it's proven. We did an analysis with the with some of our research guys down at the Human Performance group at Lackland that said, hey, the individuals that far exceeded the IFT had a way better probable success rate through A&S. And the ones that didn't super struggled. They struggled just to barely get in some instances. Now you can there's always a variable in there that's going to throw that number off, whether it's they got injured or whatever the case. Because I also look at injuries too, right? But there's a difference between injury and hurt. You can grind through hurt all the time. An injury is an injury. Tearing your ACL, that's an injury. That's a legit injury, right?
Yeah.
You got a slight sprain, that's just hurt, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Are you hurt or are you injured?
Yeah. And so, we know that this is a real thing. So the information also from someone who reviews packages and looks at, and I'm trying to look at numbers all the time, like how am I going to produce for combat control specifically? Like how many I'm going to get in the door, how many I'm going to produce a year to give to the teams, to the operational force. I put that into consideration when I'm looking at these packages too. And I'm asking our individuals that have access to help us out and look at the recruiting efforts, like how many actually exceeded the standard, how many are getting the green light from their developer. You know what I mean? That matters to me. And candidates, in my opinion, you're in charge of your own destiny. Like you're literally, in most cases, you're in charge of your own destiny, your own fate. And if you're out there and you're like, man, you're asking your developer, am I ready to go? And he goes, I think that we should give him more work, or, we should increase this score here before we ship you and things like that. And take his word, do it. You ain't got to go. Ain't nobody holding a gun to your head saying, I gotta leave tomorrow. Like, right?
Yep.
Like, nah, man. Like, but there's always, there's looking at the glass half full, right? You can lose it positively or negatively. Then there's the negative ones that are like, well, my developer said, he needs another 30 days with me. Maybe it really means 60 days. Maybe he needs, 90 days. And then you get to that 60 days and the developer's like, yeah, I'm not really feel that ready yet. You know what I mean? But no, you're ready. Like, don't take advantage of it. You know what I mean? Because that'll burn you too. Because then the developers, I'm wasting my time here with someone who's indecisive, and we don't need that.
Well, yeah, there is a certain amount of time that you're allowed to stay in development. Yeah. And I think, and I know that there are some instances where, somebody's been in development for 6, 9, almost 12 months, and they just keep pushing it off. And it's not really because they're not physically ready to go. It's mentally they're not there, and they've psyched themselves out. And next thing you know, like, you're not shipping, you're not going to be a PJ, you're not going to do whatever, so because you psyched yourself out, you got inside your own head. So going back to the cross trainees real quick, Like, and this is something that we've said, and in fact, when we've had you on before, you've probably said this exact same thing, but I want to hit it again. Like, you're handed, and I don't know what the actual numbers are, but you're handed 10 applications to cross train, right? Other than ensuring that somebody isn't just meeting the standards or barely above the standards, because that is an aspect of it that you are calculating, right? But what is another way, or some of the like cool points that people can get to help their package kind of stand out? Some of the things that I've said is like, hey, make sure that everything's a high quality scan, easy to read, make sure there's no spelling or grammatical errors or anything like that. But what are some of the other things that people can do to go like, if I have essentially 2 identical people or 10 identical people, how do I help stand out?
So the attention to detail, right? Remember how we used to always hear, and it's always the thing, attention to detail, right? Like when you put in those packages and it goes in the system. If it got down to where, and I've seen this before, I've had 2 candidates and they were both crushing it, right? Fantastic IFT score, fantastic EPRs, letters of recommendations from outstanding individuals, some individuals that I even knew, you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, this guy gave him a great LOR, sweet, letter of recommendation. All right, right? And I'm stuck because I only got 1 slot left, you know, that I can handle 1 course or whatever the case. You know, I'll even go back to where the attention to detail, what matters to me. If I go in this system that I have through AFPC and I look at it and I see how they've downloaded and literally named files. When I see just tab 1, 2, 3, 4, because you can name them, tab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm like, shit, which one is? Oh, sorry, but crap. Which one is which one's which? I don't know. And now I gotta literally open each one. It takes forever because obviously, you know, we don't have the fastest systems out there.
It's so slow.
It's so slow, right? And I gotta open this PDF, and then it's like bloop, and it's just like a random like file. Then I'm like, oh, it says graduate TCCC, you know, certificate. Oh, sweet. Open the next one, and it's some other one. Oh, next one. I don't know what it is, and I've literally seen some candidates that have everything marked in there. Like, here's my Air Force 2992, my DA 2808, my first letter recommendation, second one letter recommendation, my IFT score, exactly how the package is supposed to be in. I look at that attention to detail. I'm like, that, because first of all, when I open their packages, one of the first things I'm going to see. How do they name and mark everything for me? So I can go, okay, this is check, 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 check. This is good, good. I'm looking for my specific things. All right, boom. This candidate isn't messing around. Like, he knows exactly what to put in there for me, and I can see it, and I know where to look for it and how to retrieve it. And it comes down to minute stuff like that. You know what I mean? That I'm looking for. You're right. I'm looking for clear PDFs, like clear documents, like good scans. Because some of them, I'm like, I'll literally send it back and say, redo this, completely redo it. Because I can't even read it. And if I can't read it, I can't value it, and I can't adjudicate on it, and I can't look at it. So I'm not gonna waste my time.
So what about because I, you know, obviously I haven't cross-trained, so I don't know what the package, but what about combining everything into one PDF that's in order? Or would you prefer not to have that?
That's fine too. Like, I'll take that as long as that combined PDF is in there and I open it up, and then I'm going to see it all the way down the list
In order.
In order.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this individual will just basically try to collaborate everything and make it faster. Cool.
What about you, Trent? I saw you shake your head no.
Nah, I want them all out and labeled.
Ah,
You know,
there you go. Oh
But-
man, now everybody's gonna be freaking out. Like,
Well,
who am
I
I? Which way's the right way?
it's not the end of the world, but also having multiple IFTs in there, it's something that I'll have 2 tests in there. You know, that gives me a little bit more of a warm fuzzy than just the single. I don't think it's a requirement, but it's always nice when they throw a few in there. So I can
You
see-
cut out a little bit, but I think I understood that you want more than, if a person has taken officially more than one IFT, they should put those in there. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I think I heard that right, but I want to make sure.
Yeah. And now since Trent said that, now my standard will be increased, and I will no longer collaborate with PDFs, and I want them single spaced or double spaced, APA version 8 format on that. So
You're joking, but then you say that, and now it's a thing. So,
no, yeah, I definitely want clarity. I want the items in there. And Trent has a point. There is some pretty good. If I see multiple IFTs, because I'm looking at the time from when they did it and then who scored it, right?
Yep.
If in fact they're able to reach out, or in some cases now with our developers, they're reaching out to them and knocking out that PT score or that IFT, and it's validated by either them or an operator at an STS, GA unit, ASOS, you know what I mean? Someone that we trust for that. And I want to see better, honestly too, would be super helpful is that we have better contact information. Like
Yes.
put your cell phone in there. Everybody's got a phone, put it in there so we can contact you, so we can at least have our developers contact you. Give me a good email and check it, because we've also seen it where our developers are trying to get a hold of cross trainees and they're sending them their emails to the work email and and they're not getting back to them. And at that instance, I'm like, okay, this individual literally has 30 days to gotta wait, and put him back on the list. There's your opportunity. You just have to be ready for it, because I necessarily have, and Trent and so does the MFM Kenny and stuff like that, and Jamie, we have plenty of applicants. I don't necessarily need to wait on you. I got the applicants. I'll put them in first because they're willing to immediately respond to calls, set up times for those IFTs to validate them, and go to those development sessions and get a good essay. Because I'll call those developers too. I hope that the candidates, all they're out there, know that on the cross training side, that, man, we know a lot of these developers, that we just do. We've known them for years.
yeah.
They're in my contacts on my phone. I'll just call them and go, what is this guy? What is this candidate? How was he? How did he do? You know what I mean? How was his performance? What was his attitude? Did you see? And I'm, from a cross training perspective, like I have a different standard for them, especially, when I call them before they come to the course and I get a hold of them, I say, hey, here's the deal. The deal is, if you fail this IFT, because like earlier this year we saw it, we had some that straight up failed the IFT or they quit, and I was like, what? You know how much time and effort and money we spent to bring you over here, and you decided during the IFT that you weren't going to finish the run, that you were just going to like, no, this ain't for me. Like, ooh, you know what I mean? Or not even make it and say, no, can they just wash me back? Nope.
Do you know how many people out there that are trying to get in and that person got a slot and then they decided to quit, and you just impacted somebody else's life? Like, because maybe they're ready, maybe they wouldn't have quit.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I could cuss on this, because I would go off on a tirade right now.
Oh, I've seen it.
Just
And
do
I've
it.
seen some of them have terrible attitudes about it. Like, feel that they're like, we're obligated to give them a second chance. I'm like, nope.
I ain't obligated to give you
I ain't
shit.
gonna do nothing. Give you dirt. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I'm obligated to do what I'm obligated to. Get you RTB.
Yeah. And here's the thing, man. Everything is an assessment. Everything is an eval. Anywhere from, you want to talk about your signature block with contact information, that's an assessment and an eval, right? Whether a phone call with either one of you two or Kenny or any of the MFMs, that's an eval. That's an assessment, because you don't think that person isn't taking your name and going, oh, well, this person was just a straight up arrogant asshole to me. No, like everything is an eval. You are being judged on everything.
Right.
I mean,
it drives me nuts sometimes. I'm like, damn, because you're right. I think about when I see certain things like that. And for instance, like us MFMs, we're going to go watch an IFT coming up. And if somebody fails it, I'm literally looking at it and I'm going, damn, I had 4 other dudes that could have, damn it, I could have brought them instead. I could have sent this other candidate instead, and this guy wasted my time. You know what I mean? And I'm at to the point now where I'm not going to yell or scream. No, man. I'm just going to be like, all right, man, cool. You fail. See you later. Good luck.
I got nothing for you.
Got nothing for you. Go do great things for the Air Force.
Bye.
You can do whatever. Bye. You know? I just say bye, Felicia. You know what I mean?
You know what I do like to hear though is it's frustrating when people that are co-located with like an RQS or an STS or an ASOS don't even go over there to attempt to get a beret wear to give them their past. Like when someone, like I had a buddy from the 2-6 call me, he's like, hey, why is this dude knocking on our door and asking for a past? I'm like, yes, good. No, if they tell you that they don't have time, the FO, and I still get a phone call about it, that's still a positive.
Yep.
But if you're there with them and there's quite a few bases with these units there, and you don't even try, and you just go down to the fitness center or have your PTL or whatever give you a PT test, it's a little bit of a red flag. I'd at least like you to make the effort, and even if they tell you to kick rocks, that's better than nothing.
Yes, the consistency of consistently trying. You know what I mean? Of going after it. It shows initiative, and man, we're looking for it. Those are minute details also that like Trent says that we're looking for. Specifically, I'm looking for it as well. Also, there's some things in packages I'm looking at. Like sometimes I won't see the greatest CPRs. I won't, but the individual, like the last EPR they have was fantastic. And I looked at before, I go, let's ask, right? And I'm like, hey, just be honest with me. Tell me why you were marked down on the 2 years before, but this one, is great. And the honesty matters. I've had some candidates go, man, I had a really rough year and I just didn't have all my eggs in the basket. I fixed it. I made the mistake, or I made a mistake. And yeah, like, dude, I'm square. I learned from my mistake. I ain't making that mistake again. Okay. And I'm not looking for a Boy Scout, so, man, everybody makes mistakes. Peach knows I made tons of mistakes. You know what I mean?
Dude, it's only 8 a.m. here, and I've already made 3 or 4 mistakes.
You're acknowledging like, hey, man, I made the mistake and I fixed it. I mean, hell, that just says that, in life in general, your experiences and stuff like that you're able to make a correction and move forward in a positive direction. Okay, cool. Right. I'll take that. I'll take that honesty. I'll take that humility. I'll take that peace. There are some where I'm like, man, my supervisor screwed me. You know what I mean? I did this and that, and he still screwed me. I'm like, okay, he's not willing to accept the criticism, or understand it and make a correction. Or sometimes their ego in some instances that they were just, too good or whatever the case. And that's not something I'm really looking for. You know what I mean?
Stop attacking me.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you can't make the correction off of, a supervisor in most instances, which I have to go off the stance that person's already here and you're right here when it comes to technical knowledge, expertise, and things like that. And they're giving you the corrections and you're always like, no, I'm right. The book says this, my interpretation of this. But an evaluation or whatever is still at here and you're not there and you're not willing to accept that and come up to here, then maybe this isn't for you,
I'll call their supervisor. I don't care.
Yeah. And I've had some supervisors that I've called too. And they're like, man, he's real awesome at PT, but this guy can't follow directions really well at all. I've had to correct him numerous times. I've got MFRs on lined up. Oh, for real? Okay. Mind send me one or let me see it or read me some? Oh yeah, I'll read them to you. Like, okay, cool. Thanks, man. I appreciate your opportunity and time.
How many people will you guys call? Like if you have a candidate so I guess it's kind of a 2-part question is what is something that jumps out at you that would make you call, or are you calling every single person? And then how many people are you calling? Are you calling the applicant, supervisor, and then chief and commander, or are you just so first question, what's making you call?
Red flags for me that are making me call is if I see a huge like difference in EPRs, I'll call for sure. And I'll call the direct supervisor, or I'll look at that EPR and I'll see their first line supervisor that wrote it, and I'll call them directly. Like I'll look them up on the globe. It's easy. You know what I mean? MS Teams is everywhere for the service. I'll find a way and I'll call, right? And then if that person's like out or whatever the case, I'll go to the letters of recommendation. I'll bring it up because they may or may not know. I'll look at what unit they were at and stuff like that, and go, okay, they were at the same unit, same time frame. Okay, because remember, I have access to AMS, so I can easily look up surfs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Other things that make me call are bare minimum pass or IFT scores, like bare minimums. I'll call the candidate directly, right? What else? If I see like on the cross, for sister services, they come in, they write a narrative, right, on why. And if I see something that jumps at me, for instance, I've seen one where it's like, hey, I really want to be a combat controller. I got to watch, I seen some combat controllers down range, or I was with the Army and I saw them and I really want to do that. And then they talk about another career field. Like I also had, pararescue in mind. I also had SR in mind. I'm like, okay, well, I'll call them and go, like, what direction do you want to go? Because right now you're telling me like you're not being clearly defined on what you want and your short, medium, and long-term goals of where you want to be in the Air Force. So it triggers the, hey, I want to come in, but I might change my mind too. You know what I mean? Because with, for instance, cross trainees that are sister service, they're essentially getting almost like a GTEP type of contract.
Yep.
So if you come in and say you want to be a combat controller, well, that's what I'm going off of. And you're either going to become a combat controller, or you're going to go to either A, the needs of the Air Force, which, by the way, in strength is getting cut. So you're probably going to see the door. And you're not going to get an opportunity to switch you over. Like I'm not going to do it, because then I have to fight for that. I got to go to Trent, to his CFM, and say, hey, this guy, wants to do this, and I'm just not doing that, because those are my guaranteed opportunities that I'm getting to the career field, that I'm validating and putting in the system to make it through for production, that I know that I'm gonna produce, because there's a pretty high success rate right now with cross trainees and sister services, and those are guaranteed numbers that are going to go into the career field, in comparison to the special warfare open enlistment, where if they're not in that top 10%, top 15%, where they get their choice, they're going to go to the needs. So that's kind of a little bit of a gamble. This is a guaranteed. I'm going to put my eggs in this for sure to run with, and I don't want to see any discrepancies of second thought or anything like that, or well, if I don't make it, I'm just going to go this. It's not how it works, man.
Or like a prior NDOC failure when they first joined. Gotta call those guys.
Yeah.
Or pipeline failures
Mm-hmm.
to see where they're at now.
Yep.
And then, yeah. And
So-
I'll say for my side, sorry, Peaches.
No, go ahead. Go for it.
The EPRs. So I don't care. Like if I call your supervisor and they're like, this dude is or gal is technically proficient, they're great at their job, they're always here on time, they're professional, but they don't really step up for all the off-base volunteer or whatever because they're busy working out. I'm 100% okay with that. I want you to be great at your job. So like sometimes that's the reason for a call. If you'll see a markdown on an EPR, you call and be like, what are they really good at their job? Are they professional airmen and all this other stuff? And if that's all, yes, like how you spend your own time, I'm assuming you're spending your own time working out and getting ready to cross over. So, but that excellence at work is key for me. One of the keys.
I concur on that.
That's interesting you guys say that, because and I like that you're saying that, because the Air Force, especially the enlisted performance report, evaluation system or whatever, puts a lot of emphasis, or not as much nowadays, but it still puts a decent amount of emphasis on education and volunteering, which you're right. If somebody has a goal in mind like, to change their life path and their career path, and you're opting to not go to college, not volunteer off base or on base, so that you can spend a year, you know, getting a lot better physically and ready to go in the pipeline, like yeah, rock on, I'm game. There's gonna be a lot of people that are like, a lot of supervisors now, they're like, oh, nobody's volunteering now. Fucking way to, whoops, man, I'll tell you what, I'm all fired up. I'm trying not to cuss, and yeah. I tell you what, you know what got me all fired up, Rob, was you talking about cross trainees that came in and then quit. I'm still stuck on that because that really pissed me off. But like, but I do want to ask you something about the 125 alpha, because that's a question that we get often, is if you have somebody who went to the old NDOC or went to ANS now and they SIE'd or they quit, their 125 alpha, if it says, do not return or whatever like that, is there a way to get that changed? Or is that is a non-starter right from the get-go?
That one's tough because when I look at it two different ways. I look at it when they made that decision. Like if it was Airman Basic, you know what I mean? That's one thing. I'm like, okay, man, the kid just, during that time frame, you just had the pass test and then you got thrashed, right? I do look at the capabilities of what we have within the organization to build people, right? And I look at it the other way, as in some instances where I've seen some of these names and I'm like, I was down at the course and I watched this individual quit, and man, I'm just not going to take that risk. Like, sorry, you know what I mean? I seen it in nature or whatever the case. And I'm just like, man, maybe not today. So it's not a no, like a non-starter. But if I do see like individuals that were, for instance, look at their 125 alpha, and then I try to get the information to say, when did they start the pipeline too, right? If they were, because we can dig back in certain archives and look, and I said, okay, this kid was in the pipeline for a year and a half and then decided to quit. And look at the record was like, student out of training, in training, student out of training for a long time, based on injury or whatever the case, and then went back to training, student out of training again, and it was just lingering. Like I'll look at that and go, no, this is not someone I'm looking for. But if it was just like hey, was in training, they're just out because you just had a rough day or whatever the case, I'll consider it. You know what I mean? I'll look at the whole package itself and go, all right, because there are some guys that man, they just had a bad day, or maybe had some issues. Like I'll call those individuals themselves. I'm like, can you look back and think like why did you quit that day? I've had some candidates tell me, hey man, I'll be honest with you, my family member died, and I thought that just staying through and training through it, that I would use it as a motivation to get through, but it was just too much and I couldn't overcome it. So I quit and I went home to see that. Man, I'm not a heartless bastard. You know what I mean? I'm gonna be like, I'll be like, yeah, man, let's give you a shot. You know what I mean? But you can't quit. Like you quit again, you'll never see another opportunity. And then I'll see that same, if you quit again, I'll see that package. And then if you try to go somewhere else, and I'll be like, hey, just so you know, this guy's done it twice. This is the first reason I gave him an opportunity. The second one here, and he did it again. So that's trend now. So I would advise you on it. You know what I mean? So when we literally sit like cubicle to cubicle right next to each other. So, and then, so it's not a non-starter. I just look at it pretty thoroughly. I've been pretty successful with some of them, that I have. Because sometimes maturity does take a lot longer. It took me 18 years to become mature.
Here we are.
And here we are, you know what I mean? So yeah, those are definitely, they're not a non-starter, but I have to look into it more, and it ends up being 50-50, you know? So
Yeah, but that's also that attitude that sometimes candidates will bring about, hey, I passed this test and uploaded this paperwork, so you owe me a slot. Like, understand that, especially if you were in the pipeline previously, that the process is going to take a little bit longer. I'm going to look a lot closer at you. I'm going to look at your age that you were when you quit pipeline, I'm going to talk to you about, lessons that you learned. Like, it's just going to take a lot longer to get to yes than, some of the other folks out there.
oh
Let's
yeah.
catch any of that. Okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it goes back to, like, too, those packages too, not being a naysayer, but if you have a 125 alpha, you already know in some instances what we're looking for. So if you send me an IFT score that's barely passing, I won't even consider it. That right there is a non-starter. Like, I look at a 125 and you've got, like, one pull up here and 2 push-ups there and 3 sit-ups over. Nope. Because you already know. You've already been through a small portion of it. You've seen it, you tasted it. So you already know. Like, I will in that instance, your experience should drive you to understand that the past at the time, or now the IFT, is the minimum standard. You should be crushing that thing and trying to raise the bar. Because I've even brought up too with the other career flow managers that we should have a minimum IFT, because that's what we can work with, the bare minimum that we could work with to hopefully be successful. Then we should have a optimum standard. That optimum standard is where you should try to be achieving, because maybe it's the fact that we got to give that to them. Like, you got to tell them, which I don't think you should. I think you should exceed it as far as you can. But maybe that's just a quantifiable number or goal that we need to look at and go, okay, like, this individual here is getting to here, man, they're going to be really successful. And it would, honestly, in some instances, probably help us rack and stack the candidates on who's ready and who's not. Some people take a little bit longer, Hell, I failed my first pass test coming into the service.
You remember your first pass test?
Oh yeah. That one I do remember, because I tanked it. I just tanked the swim. Like, and at that point I was like, nope, that ain't ever gonna happen again. You know what I mean? It definitely, as a younger male, you know what I mean? Where I'm from, it hurt my ego, and that made a big change too on some other things.
Well, yeah, you're from
National City, man.
yeah.
California.
You couldn't go back having failed or quit.
Yeah, but I think that's one of those things too, though. We're trying to protect the candidate. We're not just gatekeeping for the career field. We don't want to waste your time. We don't want you to waste our time. If you show up and you can't pass the IFT, or you barely squeak through, man, we want people to show up and, in the words of Ron Helm, and so we want to give you the best possible chance to be successful, to make the career field more successful, and all these other things. It's not like we're just like think that we're better than you. We want you to show that, you want to come here and crush it. That's the end of the goal.
Right. Because also at the end of the day too, I see this and I look at it as like, so as Peach said, every day is selection. Every day you're being assessment selected. So your efforts should be 120%, like exceeding it, right? But what I am asking is, at the end of the day, you are going to be part of an organization and part of a profession in which it's not about who you are and how great you are, which in turn you're going to end up thinking like, what is the Air Force? What is special warfare? What is special tactics? What is Guardian Angel? What does TechP have to offer to you? It's, what do you have to offer to them? What kind of asset are you going to become to the team? How are you going to improve us? How are you going to make us better? You know what I mean? Instead of like, what do you guys do for me? It should be, look what I can bring to you. Look what I can bring to, you know, Troop 2 or Silver Team or what. Look what I can bring to what I have to offer for you, right? You can say, hey man, like, you know, in the competitive nature too, like you could show up eventually one day and say, man, I may be able to run, you know, fast and, you know, double the maximum OFT points, you know, whatever the case. But guess what? I believe that I am more technically savvy to run any program or anything and make our team more efficient. Or, you know, I've seen in some instances where, like on team, I had a couple guys that were, their niche was obviously for the improvement of the team. But I tell you what, when we're looking to buy certain things, equipment or whatever the case, they knew the equipment so well. And they're like, we need to buy this because they researched it. They offered to the team like, hey, here's our options. Man, we've done X, Y, and Z with this one, X, Y, and Z with this one. But we'll tell you that this one supersedes this because of this reason. And this is why we should buy this and spend our money to buy this equipment, because it's known, it works, and it's worked in this scenario, that scenario, whatever the case. They're offering their knowledge and their expertise to the team to make it better. So we don't waste our money buying some other garbage. You know what I mean? That's just like, and it may sound really like just minute or whatever, but that matters when you're on established budgets and things like that. When, you know, and some individuals that, you know, that come into the pipeline or whatever the case, and they have a networking engineering degree or whatever the case, and they are showing other individuals as an improvement and asset to the team, like, man, you can move a KMZ file like this way easier. Just do this, and teach it. It's over, right? That, you know, we may have learned like a 15-step process, and they're like, no, man, check it out. You can just do it in 3 steps. Watch this, boom, 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 and it's safe and it works. Like, what positives, what resources, what internally do you have that can make the team better? So it falls into the, like, exceeding the standard in that instance. Like, you are exceeding your the normal or the norms that, because, and I emphasize on that because I hate hearing norms. I think it's stupid. I think the standard's a standard. It's always been in writing. Like, yeah, a culture, but we do have a culture of being hard, because you know, if you think about it, Mother Nature gives zero crap of you. It's going to happen no matter what. It doesn't care. So, you know, the harder you are, the more exceeding the standard you are, the harder you train and the harder you work, the better success rate in life in general. And whatever operation we send you out to go do in whatever climate, you know what I mean? And then B, our culture is hard because we like to hold a competitive nature, because at the end of the day, we're in the Air Force. And even to this day now, you know, you send an Air Force, you know, combat control, pararescue, you know, special reconnaissance or TACP airman to a sister service, they're just going to go, you're just in the Air Force, right? You're just the Air Force guy, you know, and we're basically, you know, validating our reputation every day, all the time with everyone else. Because through time, those individuals that, you know, those now command sergeant majors that Peach worked with, you know what I mean? Or the ones that I worked with Trent and all the other guys, they're gone. They've retired. There's a new one in town, and he knows there's very little of what we can bring in to offer. And we have to prove ourselves over and over and over every day.
Yep.
You know? So that's why I hate hearing like the norms and blah, blah, blah. Like, nonsense, man. Nonsense. Straight up. Like, we have to train individuals to be the best warfighters out there. And it starts with exceeding the standard, like coming in with a mindset of, you will crush it. You know what I mean? In whatever you do.
Absolutely.
And what can you offer?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. You're right. What can you offer? Because you are the one that is wanting to come and join us. Like, yeah, we need people. You're right. Yeah, we're critically manned, but like, I'm not interested in taking somebody who's not motivated, not of good character, and kind of a shitty teammate. Like, I'm just not interested in it. So, I'm gonna wrap us up now since I've got better audio and video than Trent does. So really appreciate you joining us, Rob. I'm sorry, man. I just got to call you out. It's not personal. It's just business, right? But
Feels
I
personal.
mean, hey, yeah, it feels personal. Well, I've already attacked Aaron on this. I've attacked you. Rob's the guest, so I'm not going to do that. But believe me, I'll attack myself after this. So appreciate you joining us. Again, like we always enjoy having you on. You provide a whole lot of insight, especially from a functional, a functional manager, especially at AETC or Air Education Training Command. So again, you're welcome anytime, and we're happy to have you on. So everybody that's out there listening, please like, subscribe, hit that bell. That way, whenever we release a new episode. And if you feel like you want to leave us a review on Apple Podcast or a 5-star on Spotify, we'd appreciate it. Yes, the merch store is closed right now, but it'll reopen here soon, and we'll announce that. So for everybody that's out there, later.
Later. Thanks, James.